What's up, everybody? It's your boy Crazy Al Kane, ShitKane.com, CACTV. I got something special for y'all today, a special treat. That's right, because we cover BMX, hip hop, and other dope treats. But this is a BMX treat that I'm about to give you guys today. I have a special guest on the show right now, legendary BMXer, legendary artist. This is a legend in all facets. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Damian Fulton representing right here. I got the Let's do the drum roll. Hold on. Let me do the drum roll one more time. We're going to move again. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Damian Fulton right here, creator of Radical Rick. Yeah. Crowd applause.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Your studio audience is fantastic. They look
Yes. We have a packed crowd right here in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So this is legendary. This is an amazing moment for me, as a kid growing up in the 80s, BMX Plus magazine, everybody had to have one. That's where we got our BMX content from. And we always look forward to going in the back and checking out the Radical Rick comic strip. The crazy thing about Radical Rick is that it was for all of us BMX kids in the 80s, it was just as important as reading Supercross, a Superman comic book, a Daredevil, X-Men. It was in that time, it was in that era. And also just as important to us who are in the BMX community. So it's an honor to have you on the show here. What got you started in art? Let's just start there. What got you started in doing art?
Well, let me just say, too, it is an honor to be here. We were talking a little bit earlier. You have been on to Radical Rick and this crazy growth that has happened as a result of a lot of the nostalgic BMXers growing up and finally reconnecting with their BMX roots. And COVID just also spiked all the interest in old school BMX. So,
Right.
But you were there very, very early on. And I just want to thank you for everything you do. I like going to the site just to find out what's going on. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, the other thing is, so probably how I started, my mom tells a story that when I was a little kid, this is all probably Fulton family folklore, but they said that from an early age, I would take my cereal bowl, dump it out of my tray, and I was in a high chair, take the bowl on my head like an artist cap, and I would squiggle in the tray. Now, I don't remember that, but what I do know is my parents were very cool and they gave me lots of paper, pencils, crayons, always. So I was always that kid that drew. And then so that's how I started. And then if I watched, Batman TV series, I'd start drawing Batman. If I went and watched a horror movie or monster movie, I'd start drawing the monster movie. I would always draw. We'd ride motorcycles. I'd draw motorcycles. We ride bikes. I'd draw bikes. So that's sort of the progression of how I finally started drawing BMX was because I loved it. I rode bikes. It was relatable to me. And that was one way when the sun went down, you could extend the play is just turn on great music and draw. That's how it happened.
Right. And so besides that, who were your inspirations? Any artists, any comic books? What were your inspirations?
I was an avid reader of Mad Magazine. I loved all the gags, the comics. It's funny is I was always a DC guy. And then ironically, fast forward, one of my gigs was I was a creative director at Marvel when it was an animation studio in the early 90s. And, I had to really brush up on all my X-Men lore and history. So I was influenced by certainly Saturday morning cartoons. Now, here's a crazy sidebar is I also read when we were kids, I was a kid of the 60s and 70s. I know I don't look like it, but I read, there used to be kind of like these magazines they came out of San Francisco, these comics. So I read tons of comics, every Archie, every Superman, every Batman. But then every now and then, our older brothers would, kids in the neighborhood would get these kind of really racy and edgy comics called I think it was called Zap Comics out of
Hmm.
San Francisco, and so that was a big influence because it was sort of the subversiveness and maybe the outsideness that is attractive about the BMX world. It really spoke to that kind of nefarious, anti-establishment, um,
Right.
vibe that all young kids and especially your teenage years, you sort of like to see that kind of, you know, um, satire and comedy and just stuff your parents would never understand.
Right.
And that sensibility, the combination of comics and Saturday morning cartoons, monster movies, and motorcycles and bikes sort of became culminated in Radical Rick.
Right. 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 Yeah. That's funny you say that because that's kind of like that was like what we did. We watched the Saturday morning cartoons. Then after that, Godzilla. We go ride our bikes. you know,
Yeah.
that's pretty much what it was. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. The other thing is your style is definitely it stands out. Your style of art stands out. Um,
Thanks.
I just recently saw you did some stuff with using pen actually too. So, what is your favorite brush or device that you want to use to that you like to use all the time? Water paint,
Well, this
watercolor.
is I love watercolor. I love and Radical Rick was pen and ink. You the old time you dip it in. I'd have a crow quill.
Mm-hmm.
I dip it into the India ink. I do the outline, and then I'd go back in. I have one of the early. I still have my watercolor kit.
Nice.
You know,
I remember those
and
from school.
yeah, that's and so always near and dear to me. So watercolor is kind of intuitive, but I also paint. This is a commission back here of the skier. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you can see that,
Oh yeah.
but so that's when I'm on this stuff, which is oil paint, and I like all that stuff. I like to experiment a little bit, and now
Mm-hmm.
I'm you know and I still paint digitally. I work on Procreate and that sort of thing if I'm really trying to knock something out quickly. But I try
Mm-hmm.
to paint as often as I can, and I'm not glued down to any particular medium.
Nice, nice. Speaking of digital stuff, because you came up in the analog world, just
Oh my
straight
gosh!
pencil and paper. How was it
Yeah,
transitioning into going into digital and the Procreate and things like that?
I wish I could tell you it was intuitive,
Mm-hmm.
but I was in an industry. I was in the advertising industry doing commercials and creating content. Back before they didn't call it creating content, they called commercials, and I did a ton of work for Hot Wheels, a lot of Mattel, Masters of the Universe. I drew a million He-Man storyboards, shot a bunch of commercials. So,
Mm.
um, and that was back when we used marker sets. We just drew them by hand. There was no digital. You couldn't swipe information. There was no 3D programs. So what happened was I that was what I did, and I was good at it, so that I didn't. And also, as I moved up in the company, as a air quotes executive, we had
Mm-hmm.
people that did all the mechanicals, did a lot of the construction behind the scenes work that had to get done that I would have learned to do if I was to jump from analog to digital.
Right.
So I resisted digital for years and years and years and years. And then a few years back, I was working on a project in China during COVID, and I said, dang, I gotta. If ever I was in lockdown over there,
Mm-hmm.
so I had brought along an iPad and I started drawing in Procreate, and it's funny what a few months in China will do for your digital skills. So it took me
Right.
that long to make the jump.
Wow. Wow. That's interesting. What was I gonna say?
You were gonna say how awesome your shirt looks. I know. I
I
agree.
know I didn't even mention it. Look,
Yeah,
I said, look,
I should
I
have.
had to represent. I had to represent.
Oh man, I should have had an Al Kane shirt on. Wouldn't that been good?
I gotta send you some. I gotta send you some stuff. Actually, yep.
Oh
I
yeah,
gotta
I
send you
gotta have
some
some
stuff.
swag.
I gotta send you
Yeah,
the sugar cane care
yeah,
package. Definitely,
yeah.
most
Hey, thanks,
definitely.
Dan.
Yeah,
I'll wear it with pride. But
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Now, as far as BMX is concerned, you used to ride BMX. Were you a racer? You do tricks? You do both?
well,
What's your BMX background?
here is the beauty of it, and the true confession.
Mm-hmm.
I always okay. So we rode motorcycles, dirt bikes in the field. I raced a little motocross,
Mm-hmm.
and then what we would do is bikes are expensive. They break, and you need an adult to transport it. A
Mm-hmm.
bicycle, you could go anywhere. And so we had dirt fields. I'm talking about 1970, maybe 72.
Mm-hmm.
Early pre BMX. And because of we were always breaking bikes, Schwinn Stingrays. We would
Mm-hmm.
weld. We had a neighbor who had a welder. We'd make all these modifications, change the gearing, and we did a lot of we did mostly Evil Knievel was huge back then. We did Evil Knievel jumps. You build up a big shopping cart with a board on it, and then we would race each other around the track that would be used for motorcycles in our area on bicycles because it
Mm-hmm.
was free, no gas, no adult supervision. And by the time BMX really hit, I was in college, and it never came to my that the organized tracks didn't come to my neighborhood or in my area,
Right.
and for a while, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just out of my sphere. I still rode with guys that rode bikes, often, and by
Mm-hmm.
that time we had graduated into hill riding before there were mountain bikes and stuff downhills. So when BMX Plus came out and I started seeing it on the newsstand, I knew a guy in there. Dean Bradley was a photographer,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, Dean, I would love to draw for this magazine. Is there any way you can get me an interview? And so Dean Bradley, who had contacts up in LA, introduced me to those guys. So my background is uh, never, I wished I was a professional racer. I was never, I'm a wannabe like the average Joe, and I'm still absolutely amazed by the writing ability um, of the old timers and the modern writers. And
Right.
I know we can have a dialogue about what is cooler, what's better, what's wrong with the old style, what's wrong with the new style.
Mm-hmm.
But I like it all. I really think BMX is going to continue to evolve. It should evolve, and it's a tribute to the sport as a whole, going way back to the early '80s all the way through to today. So I
Absolutely.
would I would answer that I am a fanboy of BMX
Mm-hmm.
more than a racer.
No, that's great. That's great. And the fact that, I feel the same way about BMX as far as all of the levels, generations, offspring. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Every bit of it. I take it all in. Even the parts of BMX that have been redefined as other things because people are like, well, this is not a BMX, and this is, it's like
yeah.
it's all BMX. Let's be honest. So I definitely take it all in. So yeah, absolutely agree with you on that. Radical Rick. Radical Rick. So, what made you come up with Radical Rick?
That's a very good question. I had gone up to the offices of BMX Plus in Torrance, California. I drove up from Orange County
Mm-hmm.
and showed him my very fancy, polished college artsy fartsy portfolio because I wanted to do art.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked at it and they actually hired me for some stuff. But really, they said it was Mike Aguirre and Jim Stevens, who were the publishers. 1979 said, you know what we really need? We need a comic strip. And at the time, early on, Bob Harrow had done an advertising that used a character called the Grab On Kid in one page comic strips. And they said, we like that a lot, but could we have our own character? And I said, well, yeah, I'll go do that thing. And I said yes, because when you're a young person, when you're hustling, it's like anybody asks you something, go, yes, I can. You
Mm-hmm.
have no idea what you're going to do, but you say, that is not a problem. because you need work and you don't have any money. So I went off, and at the time, Star Wars was huge, and um, Darth Vader was this intimidating character hidden behind a mask, and the way, if you look at his helmet, it kind of designed after a skull. Ron Cobb was the production designer for, I think, that particular design, or he initiated it. And there was something so cool about him, hidden. And at the time, my favorite actor was Clint Eastwood, and he always played this type of character that didn't talk a whole lot. He was very
Hmm.
quiet, and his actions spoke louder than words. So I thought, well, what if I had a character that was really a badass? You really didn't know who was, behind him, kind of like a superhero. But that's not the story. The story isn't trying to find out who Radical Rick is. It's really about this kid has got this overproductive rad gland. He's mysterious because he doesn't say much, and it's really how the world operates around him.
Hmm.
MX Mug is almost like his voice a lot of times.
Right.
And there's, thank God, in a comic you have an announcer
Right.
caption,
Right.
that can say Radical Rick's rad reflexes tingled, and so that helps bridge that gap of a non-speaking character.
Hmm.
And so that's sort of how he began. He was mysterious and powerful, and people reacted to him like Darth Vader. Even if you look at the very early drawings of Radical Rick, his face was like a skull.
Hmm.
And then uh, I wanted the idea of him not just talking about himself, about how awesome he was, more about he just has a desire to ride,
Right.
and he loves rad situations. Not about promotion. He's not about ego. He just he's got to ride, and I just thought that was really really noble, to have that kind of a drive. We all have that thing that we're not pretending. We just want to do, and I thought, well, I'll try this. And the Radical Rick alliteration, RR, is back to the whole, Peter Parker, all that sort of
Right.
same initial, you know, um, uh, nod to my '60s upbringing, and that's what you did with characters. So, and at the time, radical was. It's so funny, is radical was not that common. It was 4 years, 5 years before Rad came out. Um, Even, I think, when the new Rad documentary comes out, they talk about how Rad was a new word. And I'll tell you one thing, it's really funny, Al. It's like radical became so, like all kind of trending words,
Hmm.
became old and not cool anymore. It
Right.
was so great to have it come back around and suddenly come full circle. And now people, I love it when a kid goes rad. He says it in his vocabulary. I go, I understand that. That is
Right.
cool.
Right.
Yeah, so that's sort of how Radical Rick came about.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so once you got Radical Rick, then you started coming up with the other characters, around Radical Rick. You had the bullies, and you had his crew, and you had all these
Yeah.
crazy things go down. So
Scuzzer Switchblade, what you need is to make somebody really um, dramatic and to have a great story arc, you got to have some baddies.
right.
And so, why would I choose a, 300-pound fat guy who thinks he's, wears a pig's head mask with tusks and got a big old gut and his buns are hanging out. And I just felt like this guy has got to be, and when I was coming up with the character, that's Scuzzer Switchblade.
Hmm.
And the idea here is Scuzzer, he believes he's one of the great descendants. I mean, he's a descendant of the great kings of Europe, and he is the king of all wheels. So Radical Rick, because he believes he's the ultimate, anything on wheels he dominates. Radical Rick is clearly a threat to him, and it's sort of like he gets this derangement where all he can think about is killing and destroying Radical Rick. And
Right.
All Radical Rick wants to do is he wants to ride his bike.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but it did allow to have this foil happen, and So as you know, a lot of people don't realize is that the comic strip lasted 13 years.
Mm.
And for 13 years, there's all these crazy arcs in it. There is the birth of freestyle. There's, you know, you know, the innovations in BMX. It was really cool because it kind of I could see those trends. And if you read the Radical Rick, there's a book out now of all the episodes. You can see the crudest earlier bikes and just the basics of BMX racing, the introduction of breakdancing, and then of freestyle, and
Mm-hmm.
then it continues to like big extreme ramp riding. And as a matter of fact, when it ends in 1993, there's the illusion of the X Games and that sort of thing.
Right.
And then what happened was a few years later, BMX got big again, thank God, because of the Warped Tour and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
then the magazine ran it in reruns in the 2000s. So I tell you all that just that it's funny because I will meet people in their 60s who remember reading Radical Rick, and then
Mm-hmm.
people in their 40s that remember reading Radical Rick. It's sort of this big. And then what's great is when their parents have them, tell them how cool Radical Rick is, and then these kids come up at some of these BMX events. They go, "Yeah, my dad makes me read Radical Rick." So it's kind of fun to see a new generation discover Radical Rick.
Right. So 13 years, and then you have the book. Are there plans of continuing on because so much has gone on in BMX now? You have the
Oh man,
Olympics, you have the
you're
Pump Track
killing
World
me.
Championship. You
You
got
had to
so
ask that question. You had to ask that. Everybody wants to know. Um, and so, okay, I'm going to try to give you the short answer.
all right.
I feel like I personally, it ended with such a punctuation mark. Radical Rick saves his buddies at a big BMX event, takes a bullet, so to speak. You have to
Mm-hmm.
read the book to find out the ending, but it would be so weird, and I could do it. Um, because I'm still drawing and all that kind of stuff, and I still do storytelling, and but it's like I don't really want to see the Beatles back together. I don't want to see certain bands back together. I
Mm-hmm.
just it wouldn't be the same. And also at this point, Al, there is such expectation of what we want to see it again.
Mm-hmm.
The only And if anybody knows somebody, the only way I would do it is I would work as a creative director. And I know this is totally disappointing for those that are waiting for the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, there's a new generation of artists that would, I think, could bring so much freshness, like the way that Spider-Man has been revised and revived to something that's so far beyond, what Stanley ever had in mind. So
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to that interpretation, and let those stand for the period that they lived in. And now let's look at. And by the way, there's a Radical Rick movie script that's out there. That's been done the rounds in Hollywood. There is uh, there is springboards of stories of how for the TV when there was going to be a TV. There's all this, everybody wants to do something for a little
Right.
while and then they get burnt out or
Right.
they get a no and then it doesn't progress. I'm not bitter, but there has been talk about entertainment vehicles, cartoons, movies, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in those springboards, how do you bring Radical Rick to this period? And they're
Right.
very, very clever.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very clever. But no, to answer your question, I won't be doing the comic strip. I'd be happy to work with the team. I'd love to see a monthly comic strip again.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's some kind of independent comic publisher that would be interested in that, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see I would love to see a comic strip. I would love to see, a cartoon,
Oh yeah,
a Netflix series or something like
yeah.
that, I
When
definitely.
remember when Stranger Things came out and it was
Mhm.
kids, 80s kids?
Mhm.
That's when I started. I've had multiple ramps of interest in Radical Rick throughout the years,
Mhm.
but that seemed like I was getting calls from producers who had either worked at with Netflix at some time, or Adult Swim, or all these other things. So there's been talk about it,
Hmm.
and right now to me it feels like all the guys that were interested. I'm at another period where I'm waiting for the next big exciting possibility.
Right.
But yeah, I would love to see that. I would love to see that.
I mean, like you said, Stranger Things reminisces on the '80s and that time period. And what the one that always blows my mind is actually Cobra Kai because it's still the same time period, and the way they ushered it in to modern day, I'm like,
So good.
oh, we need these guys to do like at least a Rad movie and make it into like a Netflix series. Figure out a way to
I'd
make to
love
do the
to.
same Cobra Kai energy, but just do it in Rad. So
I
they're
totally.
definitely.
That's not the first time I've heard that for sure.
Yeah,
He's
yeah. I
so
mean,
great.
yeah, it's crazy. So there's definitely an opportunity there. And me as being a fanboy of Radical Rick, of course, I would love to see that happen. I understand where you're coming from, but I definitely would want to see something like that
Yeah.
go down. Let's go into the box. You send me a box. That's what we're here for a box. It's a mystery box. It's a
Well,
mystery
hey, let me
box.
set this up.
All
My
right, go
my
ahead.
partner, Damian Hickman, he stole my name and then he misspelled it. I call him the other Damian.
The
He
other
runs
Damian.
the Radical Rick BMX website, and he sent this mystery box to you, but he failed to tell me what's in the box. So
Nice, nice.
I'm gonna be as surprised as you are. I know it's probably got a lot of. I guarantee you it has Radical Rick in it. Let's just take a look.
It's got radical something in
Yeah.
it. All right, so drum roll on the reveal here. Let's go drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. There it is. That's the box right there. All right. So I'm gonna open this box up and see what's inside. Let me get a visual on that. Let's see if I can get a big visual on that thing. Here we go.
Ooh.
Ooh, there go the box right there. There go my phone. There go a whole bunch of things. I got the speaker right here. I got my computer right here. All right, so let's open this thing up. I got my Leatherman right here. What? Everybody should have a
I'm
Leatherman.
as curious as you are.
So inside the box, we got the. Ooh, I'm gonna pop these later. These are fun. Here we got some Radical Rick stickers.
Oh, the sticker. Oh, he gave
Ooh,
you. Oh, look at you got the sticker pack, and that's a little refrigeration magnet.
this one here.
That'll stick on a toolbox, or
Nice.
if you got any kind of metal in your head from a crash, pops right on your head.
Nice, nice.
Little can. He's die cut. That's
Yeah.
watercolor, originally painted in watercolor. I'm trying to think
Wow.
that might have been done for the uh, Radical Rick bicycle that Haro did.
Yeah, this is really cool. And you said so. How do you transfer the watercolor to digital? You just like copy it, like photocopy type of thing.
Yeah, you take a scan, a high res scan. It's awesome.
Crazy.
That's from the bike for sure. And on the bike, they had multiple. Each bike had a different color. There was different sizes. There was a 24, 26, and a 29. And so
Mm-hmm.
the down tubes had like a little Radical Rick story on them.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, I actually posted those bikes, and big shout out to Harold, and big shout out to you for doing that. That was crazy, man. Those bikes looked amazing.
Oh, that's a whole nother story.
Uh
So
oh.
awesome. Yeah.
And then we
There's
have
a
this.
no hander. Yeah.
Nice.
And I should give credit where credit is due. Um, the Damien over at Radical Rick BMX, he's really instrumental, because he'll say, hey, you know what, I'd love to have that image. Okay, sounds good. So a lot of this I can't take credit for his good taste.
Nice, nice, nice. And then we have it's like a promo flyer. So
Oh,
definitely you guys
yeah.
got.
So I think if you order something online, you get that flyer and it gives you details about what else is online. That's just a plug.
Yeah, nice, nice. All right. Oh, and we got the beanie.
Oh, well done. Well done. With that little patch, and maybe it's going to be a long spring and you can continue to wear it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We still got some cold weather going on over here.
Yeah.
So
Out here in
next up,
California, we wear beanies to pretend like we're back east.
that's hilarious. And then we have these little guys. What's these about?
Okay, this is so cool. Again, I mentioned Rob Huddleston has put together a collection of Radical Rick figures, and that's Radical Rick version one. And you can see that he's got there's a couple different versions that he's doing, and that was just a fun promotion. I don't think very many people have those, Al. Those are like a total prototype. He did put out we sold 45 hand painted. They're little bit larger, like a Star Wars figure, on a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful cap, wrapped in a clamshell, and those sold out super fast. And there is a Scuzzer Switchblade model, all hand painted, only 45. I think those are still available at radicalrickbmx.com. They're beautiful. Oh, there's Scuzzer. The Scuzzer version is on is on a backing card, and is, I think, about, maybe 2 inches bigger than that. He's a hefty boy.
You know what? As a matter of fact, okay, we are on the Radical Rick website. What? And
Oh,
here it is. Here it is, right
there
here.
he
This is what you're
is.
talking about. That's what he's talking about. Let me open that up. Here it is.
Okay, you tech whiz, you.
So that's the one right there that he's talking about.
Yeah. Hand
Ni-
painted. That guy is so talented. Rob Huddleston. And he came up with I did the artwork, but he built the whole thing, added a lot of the the funny verbiage and everything. I wrote that, a lot of that, but he's the brainchild behind this, out of sheer passion. There's only 45 of those,
That's
and
awesome.
eventually next we're dropping a MX mug, Radical Rick's buddy. He's
Mm-hmm.
going to be done, and then finally there'll be the fourth figure in the series, commemorating the 45th radiversary of Radical Rick. Will be another new version of Radical Rick. So there's
Nice.
opportunities to get those favors and of those figures, and maybe even get the entire collection.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So back in box land over here, I
Look at your
have
technical
a
prowess. I'm so
T-shirt. I
impressed.
got a T-shirt. Okay, hold on, I'm gonna open this one up. Oh, this
Yes.
one is fresh. I like this one.
Yeah, this one is very fun, and was inspired by. There's a classic image of Bob Harrow doing an endo on a, what's that called? At the end of a parking space, and
Right, right, yeah.
the
The
block
parking
that
stop
stops.
thing. Right.
Yeah, and so I was really inspired by that, and with the Radical Rick bike by Haro, I just wanted to give a nod to him, and
Mhm.
so that's MX Mug down there, and Radical Rick is doing an endo with him, and yeah, so that's kind of a nod to Bob Haro. Bob Haro is a friend of mine, and sometimes we're confused. Not for our writing skills, he's a legend, but for artistic skills, sometimes people think I drew the Rod, a lot of Bob Haro's drawings,
Right.
and people believe that maybe Bob Haro did Radical Rick. So we're the Mutual Confusion Society.
Mutual Confusion Society. I like that. It's the arch nemesis.
Oh, you got a Scuzzer. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now don't get
Woo!
confused. That isn't Todd Lyons.
There it is.
Yeah, and
Nice.
with the whole big bike thing, and the just the how it was so great. See, I know a lot of people think these, wheeling through the streets is crazy and dangerous, but there's something so exciting about kids riding bikes again,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I know you parents that are listening that have small kids, I think it's so much better for a kid to be on a bike or an e-bike than in the room scrolling. So you get out there and ride, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's um as far as what's going on now, it's to me it's like a new renaissance, Back there was a period where when we were growing up, you would see kids all the time riding bikes on
No
any
kidding.
corner,
Yep.
any given day, and you knew the
Yep.
kids who actually rode and the kids who were just casual riders because just by the way the bike was set up, and that lured
Yeah,
you to these kids like, yo, what do you, where you guys going? Where's the
absolutely.
place you're riding at? So that was a way of everybody kind of socializing, and then for a very long period, the only place you would find BMXs was at the trails, the skate park, things like
Right.
that. And then when the whole, the wheelie bike thing came in and everybody started doing the ride outs and stuff, you
Yeah,
started seeing more kids out in the street riding
so
in
great.
random places. Like I just saw some kids just now riding in the street, and I'm like, this is what it was like when I was a kid. I don't know how people our age are forgetting about that era and having an issue with that. You know what I mean? Because it's like that's just what this is the same exact stuff that we did when we were kids. We rode in the
Yeah.
street, we rode around, and then back then, cats they were way more rowdier back in the day. Because I know back in the day, kids were throwing bikes on cars and all kind of crazy stuff back in the day. So,
Oh,
you know,
hey, and the funny thing is the parents that are clamping down on their kids riding bikes, like, oh no, you might get hurt. I
hmm
got news for you. That is the best thing in the world that could be happening to them. They got to pick themselves up and they got to handle it. And where else are they going to get that? They're so
right.
coddled and protected. And it's so awesome that we were living in a time when the parents could go. The parents just basically said, "Hey, when the street lights come on, you come in." Uh, oh my gosh, they never knew. They
hmm
never knew. And
hmm
you get cut, you break something, and you scars all over. And gosh, those rat trap pedals. They I still have scars on my shins from those. Right? I mean, it just was great. It was a great time. So yeah, you go, kids.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So I think I have one more thing in the box. So let's see what we got here in the box right here. Let me see now. Wait a minute.
I'm
Hold on.
all eyes.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. So
Oh, I think I know what that is. It must be valuable because it's in a protective sleeve.
exactly, yeah. Let's see
I
what we
don't think
got.
it's an invoice. I don't think it's a bill. I think there's something special in there. Oh,
Oh, whoa, 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 whoa,
that
whoa.
is, I believe, yeah, that's a hand signed original. Not, excuse me, it's not original. Let me go back. That is um, a hand signed um, um, G clay print, high quality archival inks on archival paper. That will last longer than you.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and
And
that's an image of Radical Rick hole shotting MX Mug, and the name of that artwork is called Hole Shot. And I don't believe those are sold out. I don't believe there's any more of those left.
this is amazing. Like it just pops off the page. This is
Yeah,
really.
that's
I'm gonna hold
that's
my.
the
I'm gonna
beauty of
look
that watercolor. The watercolor is so vibrant, and only this type of printing process, I believe, does it justice. Lithograph won't work.
wow, this looks. This really looks amazing. Really looks. Thank you so
Oh, I'm
much for the
glad.
view. This is
Yeah,
amazing.
frame that puppy, and please don't put it in a folder somewhere because it needs to breathe and be seen. And you can prove to your friends and neighborhood in the neighborhood that you are really a classy, artistic guy with real taste.
I appreciate it. I really appreciate this one. This is awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now we have one more thing in the bottom.
What?
There's
Wait,
one
you
more
told
thing in the
us.
bottom
You
of the
mean
box.
that
Yup.
print is the penultimate thing? Now we're going to the final thing.
The
I'm
final,
ready.
the final
What?
feature. The final feature.
Oh, I
It feels
like.
kind
Yeah,
of
I know
heavy.
what this is.
It feels kind of heavy. Wait, where's my? What did I do with my? What did I do with my blade? Hold on a
Oh man,
second.
I know what this is.
This look. It's feeling kind of bookish.
This was a labor of love
Mm.
because after 40 something years, we communities got the community together and they found among multiple countries scanned existing BMX Plus magazines, or I could get some of the originals and scan them,
Mm-hmm.
and we were able to collect all 154 episodes of Radical Rick and
That's
then put them all in
crazy.
one book.
That's crazy. This is a
Yeah,
graphic
so
novel,
that
basically, huh?
is a
It's like a
labor of
graphic
love.
novel. This thing is huge. Look at this.
Yeah,
Woo!
it's nice. Just go ahead and fan the pages for the camera because you'll
Oh,
see that there is so much. They did it. The printers did a great job. It's on nice quality paper, so you
it
don't go
is.
through and see what's on the other side. And it's got a foreword by the Condor himself. There is
Nice.
there's lots of contributors like Mike Escamilla. There's Greg Hill.
Mm,
A lot of people said very very nice things. And I'm just glad, it starts with those early black and white episodes, single page.
right.
And by the end of the year, I was doing 2 pages, full color, with crazy detail, hand painting each one, staying up late at night while I'm raising my kids, um, and then each month I would finish one up, and I'd drive up to L.A. and I'd drop it off to the publishers at BMX Plus, and John Carr would proofread it for me because I'm a horrible speller. I admit it. I admit it. And I'd make corrections while I was in the office. I'd bring whiteout and tape and my ink pen, and then we'd patch everything up. And then, I would say goodbye to that episode, because that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize is there was no color Xerox machine of that size. The originals were quite big. They were much bigger than the pages of BMX Plus. They were like, you know, uh, 16 by 22 each page or something. So
Hmm.
there was a lot of work that went into those. And as a result, um, this book really captures the breadth of the burgeoning BMX movement, and all the way through to the beginning of the big events in the 90s. And then um, and the book does a great job. I think that the publisher did a very good job of laying it all out, and the quality of the printing is first rate. I hope it creates many flashbacks for people who remember reading it, and a lot of brand new experiences for those who didn't get a chance to read it back in the day. Yes, it's a giant graphic novel. And I think the one thing that I will tell you is there, please read the foreword and the disclaimers, because I got to tell you, um, the 70s and 80s was a different time. We weren't so politically correct. So you're going to see all kinds of really, triggers. There's a trigger warning in there. There's kids doing unsafe thing without the proper safety gear. There's internal combustion engines. There is violence and blood and guns and machine guns and latchkey kids, and you'll get a lot of people love that era, and I hope you can just put aside any kind of judgment of today's standards and just go with the vibe of the 80s. Oh, there's the very first cover of, by the way, funny side note, a lot of people don't realize, when I went in there to show, to tell them what an arty farty guy I was at the publisher back in 79, they said, oh, by the way, can you redesign our masthead? We need something a little punchier. So that BMX Plus logo was one of my first freelance assignments. The only difference between the hardcover and the softcover is the content is all the same. The hardcover had a new original artwork on it. The softcover has an image from, I think, about 1980, I want to say 1983 maybe, and it was actually a pullout. I think it was a poster that I did for BMX Plus magazine, and yeah, there it is. There, if you subscribed, you got this cool poster, and I just thought it was fitting. I didn't want to make the cover the exact same as the hardcover to keep the hardcover kind of special and make the paperback its own thing. But beautiful, really well the printing, the cover, the paper, the stock, I think is very nice, and I'm proud of it. I'm really glad that I had all that help of people contributing scans so that we could have a complete collection. Later on, I heard Gork over at the BMX Hall of Fame. He goes, I got a complete set. So I could have made it much quicker and easier, but anyway, that's it in all its glory. Well, you know what is wild, Al, is I've heard from people all over, and a lot of kids, they didn't get to race. They didn't get to do, they weren't really in the scene. but maybe their school had a library that had BMX Plus, and they would go there and they would live out their BMX fantasies vicariously by reading the magazines, BMX Plus, BMX Action, and that's how they connected to the sport. They didn't have a BMX scene. They didn't have, especially, if they were off the beaten track. And I just think that's so cool that a lot of kids, never got a chance to see, a major BMX race, but they still rode their bikes around. They're 20 inches. They jumped off curbs. They saw Rad the movie, and they just loved the idea of it. And the way they stayed connected was through the magazine. And if, for those who kind of like a gas from the past, there's number plates and T-shirts, and there's this commemorative challenge coin, and lots of ways to sort of get a piece of that BMX folklore, that early BMX stuff. And there's some patches and stickers and all that kind of stuff. And I have to put a shout out to Flight BMX, who have always sort of leaned into Radical Rick, and they've got number plates now, and you can get those online. We have some new gear that's coming out. Soon there's going to be a really, really cool gear bag that has pockets that are identified specifically for your gear for racing, or whether you're racing or mountain biking, or you just want to bring a little bit of Radical Rick with you. And the designer did this beautiful comic strip pattern. From a distance, it just looks like a colorful bag, but if you look close, it's the episodes of Radical Rick wrapping the bag. You'll love it. I'm really excited to see that thing out in the world. Yeah. It was, and by the way, I couldn't do it all the years I was drawing Radical Rick. Because I was editorial and I had to appear non-biased. And if you notice, when Radical Rick rode, it was a generic bike, and there'd be other bikes around him and riders that were legitimate riders of the time. But I couldn't, profit off of Radical Rick in that way. So it's kind of nice that after all these years, with the interest of big bikes, that that Haro did a cool. I think they did a great job. It's been reviewed on some other websites, and I'm just so pleased to say I think it's a nice bike for the price point, and the components are nice, and it's instantly rideable. But a lot of guys now are just customizing it, and it's just great to see Radical Rick out there. Since this is the 45th anniversary of Radical Rick, I will be at some events this year. I'll be at the Buckeye. I know. Which is gonna. I'm really looking forward to that. I've got some stuff planned there for as a guest, and then I'm also going to be at Dirty Fest, and I'm going to be doing all kinds of artwork there. I like to do art when I'm at these events, and then we raffle them off to help raise money for tracks and that sort of thing. And then I'm going to be at Old School BMX Reunion out in Northern California, and I'll be in the East Coast at Richmond BMX track, and that'll be in I think that is in October.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. I really appreciate you reaching out to me, you and the other Damian reaching out to me about doing this interview. And like I said, it's an honor to even be considered to do an interview with you. And I really, really am super excited about everything Radical Rick, and preserving Radical Rick, and just like any other nostalgic thing from back in those days, the fact that you're preserving it and doing different things with the IP is just, I love it. I love it. And I think when more people get exposed to it, people who rode BMX or didn't ride BMX or knew somebody who rode BMX, or like you were saying, they might have played Dave Mirra, never rode a bike before. They're playing,
Yeah.
you got the new video games. There's like a whole bunch of new BMX video games that these kids, they don't ride, but they play games, and they're like checking out, BMX streets and all these different things. So, it'd be really cool now. Now we're talking about it. Here's an idea. You have what is it, Rad Dog BMX and these other different games to try and get a Radical Red character as as an upgrade.
Oh yeah.
Like kind of like a Fortnite type of thing. Like the new update, we got the Radical Red character you can play with now in the Scuzzer. So
Oh, wouldn't that
things
be
like that.
fun? Okay,
So,
from your mouth to God's ears. If you know somebody, I'd love to play that game.
yeah, that'd be sick. That would be really sick. So there's lots to do. Lots of things that you can do that.
You can be my manager. We can go in there and make a deal.
Yep,
I,
yep.
I, I really appreciate all your ideas, and I'm sure people watching this have ideas. That's all great. I'm really slammed. I'm so fortunate. I got so much stuff going on. So if anybody wants to jump in and just DM me, or I'm on Instagram at Damian Fulton, and let me know your ideas. And if there's something we can do together to collaborate, either on a new comic strip, a new animation show, a movie, let me know. And we'll
Let's
spread the
do it.
Radical Rick word and get BMX out to everybody.
Yeah, yeah. All
Thanks,
right.
thanks, and Al, thank you so much again for just again highlighting what you do, and you've been on the scene for a long time. You're legit, and I just really appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, this is Damian Fulton. I'm stoked to be here and to represent Radical Rick. And I
Yeah.
want you to know that if you're interested, go to radicalrickbmx.com and find out more about the Raddest Dude alive. And while you're there, check out sugarcane.com. And back to you, Billy.
One.